right, welcome back to another episode of Seminole Sideline 365. I am KB, and with me, as always, is the old man. How is it going? How's the week treating you?
Uh, Pretty good. I've been focused a lot on obviously Florida State stuff across the streams, everything I can get my hands on. Not making me some expert for sure. You hold that title, not an expert.
Yeah.
Also doing various yard work around my home, which I kind of break up into segments. I break it up into like quarters. You know, a house has quarters. There's four sides to the house. One quarter, second quarter. Like I cut and trimmed bushes today. I did that, but I leave it on the ground, and then I'll pick it up tomorrow. I don't want to use all my energy, but I did the first quarter of the house, and so tomorrow I'll clean some of that up, and then maybe do the second quarter of the house, and then I just take my time. And you know what? It gets done. If you ever watch a turtle cross the road, KB,
No, I don't.
he keeps moving. He's real slow, but he keeps moving. And the biggest problem he has, if he's crossing a road with a curb, he doesn't see the curb. But you know what? That's kind of like Florida State. We've been moving real slow, and now we've hit this 5-inch concrete bunker, which we'll talk about tonight, and what the hell's it going to take for the turtle to get over that? And so those things have been chewing up the week for me, brother. How about you?
Just been traveling all week for work.
That's right.
So,
I put out a show and I told everybody you were traveling.
yeah, so I got to watch the horrible Florida State Duke game, and then travel the next day, and then come back and get to talk about Florida State now.
Yeah.
About to get blown out to Miami, so I can't. It's been a great week.
Did you
great.
see my show that I put up, the post Duke game show? Did you
No,
see
I
that?
have not
You
had a
didn't
chance
see
to
it.
watch
Okay.
that yet. Have
I
not
thought
had
you
a
might
chance.
have a comment or something, but
I mean,
I'm going to give you time now to vent anything you have about the Duke or probably the current situation, because we're not going to spend all night on Miami. We're going to talk about how the turtle is going to get over this cement barrier.
I mean, I think a lot of the things we saw last week, and it's going to surface its head this week, is, Florida State's not in a good place. You played better in certain areas. Your defense gave you a chance to play, but the defense did what we thought it would do against Duke. You're playing against not a super mobile quarterback, not a super great offensive line. Duke's a very average team with an inflated record, and you still couldn't beat them. Your defensive line showed up in certain spots. And they did play pretty well. Defensive backs played their best game of the year in terms of shutting down
And special
receivers.
teams. And special teams.
Yeah, special teams. Kept you in the ball game, but once again, your offense literally couldn't come to life at all. We saw Brock Glenn, who everyone was buying T-shirts and jerseys of him and praising him all week long. They were asking for his benching, after he basically lost his total composure. And threw, two interceptions and a fumble, and just basically kind of fumbled the game away. And so, once again, everyone loves the backup quarterback, and then they wanted Luke in, and then Luke gets taken out, and Brock goes in, and it's just a total disaster at the quarterback position. But once again, it all comes back. We said in the preview show, and it's a repeat of every show, and we'll say it again going into the Miami game, guys have to step up and make plays. Playmakers have to catch the ball. They have to make plays in the open field, and that didn't happen. You saw, once again, your veteran players dropping the football, unable to secure easy catches, unable to make big plays, and that cost you the game. Brock, even though he caused 3 turnovers, you had chances to win that game at the end, and you certainly
Yeah,
couldn't.
beautiful ball from Luke down to Kentron. Drops it in the end zone.
And this goes back to what we keep saying, and we'll say again this week: these guys shouldn't be in the game. If there's nobody better than Kentron available to play, I don't know why you keep almost 11 receivers on this roster on this team. If only 5 players last week could touch the football, 5 receivers last week touched the football. And that includes Ja'Kai. That includes Lawrence Toafili. So,
and I didn't see the tight ends really getting targeted like they did the week before. Remember our freshman tight
They didn't
ends.
get any receptions last week.
I don't understand how they can have a great game the week before, and then in the Duke game, they don't catch anything.
Well, they're being asked to block. We know in the system,
I
tight
know,
ends are asked
but-
to block a lot, and their blocking grades suck. But you expect that for freshmen, and that's where Mike Norvell, I don't feel like, is adjusting enough to the personnel he has and the lack of explosiveness of this offense. He's not able to, change enough, and I think he's trying to fit square pieces into round holes, and he's not adjusting this offense on the fly, and that is hurting this offense because we've never seen, maybe in college football, an offense this inept at scoring the football. You're one of two teams in the country to not score more than 21 points, or not. I forgot what the stat was, but
I have the stat, my friend. Not
here
so
it is.
fast.
Here it
No,
is,
wait.
yeah.
You want me to give it to you?
I have it right here.
Yeah,
I have it right
it's terrible.
here. So
We're the-
here's the stat right here. That
Yeah, we're the only team in the country.
Yeah. There's 661 NCAA football teams in the country. There's 25 that not scored more than 21 points in this season. 1 is FCS, 5 are Division II schools, 18 are Division III, and 1 is FBS, and that is Florida State. We are the only school in Division I football, FBS, to not score more than 21 points. That is a huge indictment of Alex Atkins, Mike Norvell, everyone on the offensive coaching staff, and of the players for not being able to execute. Because once again, it's not just on the coaches; they drop plays, but they can't physically put the ball in the guy's hands. And we've seen time and time again, these players aren't ready to play, and they're not ready to play at this level. And we've called the same guys out over and over and over where they should not be on this field. But that is back then on Mike Norvell for allowing them to be on this roster, giving them opportunities to play, and not bringing in guys to take their position. Because if they're really redshirting Elijah Moore at this point, who was, once again, the heralded guy you brought in, Mike, and said he's going to be ready to play, and you're praising him, and all week in practices you're saying this guy's going to be a big-time player for us, well, fucking use him. Like, why are we worried about, as someone said, oh, well, he's redshirting. Redshirting for what? If he's really a great player, he's not going to be here for more than 3 years anyway. Play him. He may not even be here next year. Play him. What does it matter? Why are we trying to hold on to his eligibility, acting like he's going to be... What is he going to... what are we afraid he'll be here for... if he's good, he won't be here for 5 years like Kentron is. And if he's good, he'll be in the NFL in 2 years. Why are we... If people are saying, we got to redshirt him, then you're an idiot. I'm sorry. Put him on the field if he's the best person to be on the field as a freshman. And that goes for all skill positions. That's why you put Amari Williams on the field. And that's why you put Landon Thomas on the field. Right? Because you had bad, players not up to par, not making plays. And those guys should be featured more. I don't care how bad their blocking is because our offensive line blocking is already terrible. Right? But you need to put guys on the field who are capable of making big plays. And the guys we have out there are not. And we've seen it time and time again. It's just a broken record at this point. So put the freshmen on the field and see what they can do in game action, not just in practice. And screw the redshirt BS. Because these players may not be here next year. Unless you give them a chance. And the other thing, just looking back at the themes of last weekend and going into this weekend, is that this quarterback carousel, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think any of the insiders who are trying to sell you $15 subscriptions or Discord communities know either. So don't
Or the ultimate chief.
don't
Club.
pull your credit card out and get sold lies. I don't think Mike Norvell knows even what's going to happen on Saturday with his quarterbacks, because now you've opened that can of worms, and you now have two quarterbacks who any one of them could start on Saturday, and any one of them could be pulled on Saturday. And we've seen Brock Glenn lose his composure on the field. I mean, that is not a good signal if you're looking at him for the future. And I'm not saying he can't grow from that, but he lost it. He mentally lost it last Saturday and fell apart on the field. And I think Mike Norvell had to make that decision. If he didn't make that decision to pull him briefly, I think the community would have went crazy. Now, the decision to put Brock back in after he pulled him for Luke, I think also was the right decision, in my opinion. And now I know people will disagree with me on that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
About that situation, since
Yes.
we're a little focused on the Duke game here, and then we're going to move on. But you're really, you're really hammering Brock here, and I'm not sure I totally agree that he had this big meltdown. What I haven't been hearing from you, I guess this way, or the media this week is the explanation of all of us would probably be in a panic given the offensive line that is going to be one of the worst in the country, and he has no time to sit back there as a young quarterback with limited experience to really do anything. So I'm not sure we can really evaluate how good or bad he is. And I don't want to say he had like this total meltdown when if we're saying like he had a average CFB Division I line, because he doesn't. What he has in front of him is a total joke, and the other defenses know that. So, I mean, how can we properly evaluate either quarterback? I think Mike Norvell, and I'll shut up here. Wait a minute. Okay, so what I'm saying is Mike Norvell, and then I'll let you respond. Mike Norvell has lucked out. He lucked out on DJU being pulled. Hold on, don't run anything yet. He lucked out on DJU having it come out because he had an injury. That makes it easy on a coach. It was easy for Coach Norvell to put in Luke because Brock was not playing well. He had a couple of 2 or 3 turnovers at that point. So that's easy on a coach to do that. In fact, he's criticized if he doesn't do it. So I don't have any problem of Luke going in, getting his baptism under fire, which is outrageous behind his terrible offensive line, and then Brock going back in. I think this is how this is going to play out. He has to find out if either one of these two kids are going to be a leader next year, or are they worthy to be a backup next year?
Okay, where's the question you want me to answer?
The question is,
this rant with a question.
The question is, are you putting too much blame on Brock Glenn on the meltdown? I don't get the meltdown.
He totally melted down this game. And that's not saying he can't become a great quarterback. That's not. But in that moment, in the game, he melted down. And you can see the play call right here. I mean, he throws it to the defender. He can't. He thought he could make the throw. And now the receiver could have made the wrong route. Whatever. That's a bad play. Okay, you write it off. It's a pick. It's a pick six. It's a bad play. You write it off. You move on. You mentally move on. You got to move forward right here. Now this is a design run. He runs with the ball. You got to secure the ball. You can't let that happen. Okay, that cannot. That's on him. That's a design run. He ran the football. He didn't secure it. That's strike number 2. Now 3. Once again. That it's a miscommunication, whatever it is, but you throw into the arms of the linebacker. It doesn't go to the right spot, and you turn it over again. That to me is an implosion on 3 straight plays, especially the fumble. The fumble is totally in his control. He has to secure the football if he's going to be a mobile quarterback. That one is inexcusable. You could say that one, maybe the receiver ran the wrong route, but you have to be locked in the moment. And that also is Mike Norvell's. Making to his credit, he didn't say, well, we're just going to be super conservative with you, Brock. We're going to allow you to continue to pump the ball down the field. And now, without being in the locker room, I don't know if that receiver ran the wrong route or Brock just tried to throw it short because he saw an opening there. But that's on him. He's the quarterback. And maybe
I won't argue with that.
And maybe kudos to Mike for not getting super conservative when he had already turned the ball over twice and say, we're not throwing it deep with you anymore. We're not. And they gave him another pass and he threw it away. So in that moment, that 3-stretch moment, you have to say he imploded, and it was just he was just not seeing the field, because then when he came back in for Luke, and I thought Luke had happy feet, and that's why Mike.
I'd have happy feet too.
I'm not blaming Luke either. True freshman going in on the road
on a shitty offensive line,
and you're down. But he had happy feet. He didn't look comfortable in the pocket, and he delivered some strikes. But he didn't look comfortable. Brock went back in there, and he looked calm.
KB, nobody's going to be comfortable in that damn pocket.
They had
Tom Brady would not be comfortable in that pocket.
They had their best blocking game of the season.
Oh,
for what it's worth. The other thing is, Brock went back in there, and he was better, and he operated the game better than Luke did. because he felt he was able to navigate the pocket, but then Luke did. And so I thought it was the right move to bring Brock back in.
I agree.
But you still couldn't score. You still couldn't score, and it doesn't matter. Both quarterbacks went in. Neither of them could score effectively. Your guys can't catch the football when it's put in their hands, and that's an indictment on a playmakers on this team. You know, it's the same story every week. No one on this team is capable of making plays when it matters. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what quarterback you put in at this point, because there's not players on the field who are capable of making plays, in addition to you having one of the weakest offensive lines in the country. So that all culminates into what you saw last week.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I don't think we need to talk about the Duke game anymore. But
No, I'm not, because this is going to transition. We're not. This isn't really focused on Duke. It's not focused on Miami. It's not focused on North Carolina, Notre Dame. It's focused on how the hell are we going to get over the 6-inch concrete thing to climb over like the turtle, and he just hits it. He can't get over the hump. That's what this discussion is really all about. Now. Yeah, I think any of these quarterbacks that go out there are really putting themselves at risk. Let me go back to Brock for a minute. The first interception, I'm not even sure why. That is a tough pass for a young quarterback. That is a tough pass for the quarterback, and it doesn't surprise me, because most of these receivers, we're not there. We don't break all that tape down. But most of the receivers, and from what I'm hearing, they're not getting very good separation. So when you try to throw a sideline out that deep, that long, that's really high risk. So I'm kind of wondering, why would the coaching staff create high-risk plays for young quarterbacks? That's number one. Number two, the designed run. You don't have any other quarterbacks. You have him and Luke, and then who's the other guy? Trevor?
Trevor.
Yeah. Okay. You don't have any other experience. Why do we have to? The only reason for the quarterback run, designed run, is at this point is really to keep a defense honest. However, there's enough broken plays that the quarterback's running anyways. So why risk injury to your quarterback, or that he's going to give up the football?
It's a read option.
Okay.
You have to be able to operate.
That wasn't a read option.
Yes,
if
it
you
was.
Go back and read that. I don't see the read option on it.
Yes, it
He
was.
just took off and ran.
No, it was a read option. Are you
I
blind?
think it was
Are
a
you
designed
blind?
run by the quarterback.
No, it was a read option.
Well, show me again.
Right here. It's right
Okay,
here.
show me again. I want to see it. I want to see who he. Let's see.
He's watching the linebacker. He's watching the guy at the edge right there, and he pulls it because the guy overcommits. That's
Okay.
exactly what
Okay,
happened.
you're right. I missed that. However, I've
But this
never,
happened to a
I have
Philly Buckler.
never liked this RPO type system.
God. Okay, well, you have to
because
get into that. That's huge in college football. Like,
It's a great way to get your quarterback hurt. So you better have two good quarterbacks ready to go on your football team. That's my biggest problem with the RPO. I agree. You've got to have a very agile and elite-footed Lamar Jackson type quarterback.
That's not true. You don't
Oh,
have
it's
to have
not-
a Lamar
what is
Jackson
it?
type quarterback to
You
run
don't?
the RPO.
No. Oh, okay. All right. Well, we're not going to agree on it. That's okay.
That's why you run the RPO, so you cause delay, and the guy that's not Lamar Jackson can still get yardage on it.
And you can get your guy hurt, or he can give up the football because he's not used to carrying it that much. They don't like put their quarterbacks through physical hits in practice ever. So when he gives up the football, let's not really break in for it.
The football
he
had
gave up
everything-
the football
'cause he didn't
on the run
secure it.
PO.
'Cause he didn't secure it.
Because they're not used to doing that so much. Okay, let's move on.
When he threw the
Let's
interception,
move on.
was that because of the RPO or just because he couldn't
Wait a
throw the
minute.
football?
Let's move on. Well, I thought the first one was a terrible situation to put
So that
in
wasn't
it.
because the
The-
my.
I'm
Okay,
just
so
saying.
now we have to
the
we
third-
have to set nice little throws for Brock because he can't make the
You-
hard throws.
You,
so let's
you,
do
you
little
start him
3-yard
with safer
throws.
balls,
Jesus Christ.
that starts to build confidence. And his receivers don't help him when they're
He made-
when
he made that
Luke
read, though.
for Luke Kim.
You
Okay.
have multiple receivers on the. He chose to throw that ball there. There's
I
multiple
know he
receivers on the
did.
floor.
I know he did. Okay, but what I'm saying is the third interception was just a bad throw. That wasn't a tough throw. It was a bad throw. Okay, so enough with that. I think the young quarterbacks, you said Luke had happy feet. I think we're beating these guys up a little too much to try to evaluate who they are.
Game.
That's all.
I'm not saying that's who he is.
Okay.
I just said in that moment, in that game, it looked like, and that's not to say he's not going to be a great quarterback. I just said in that moment, that's what I saw.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
It's
All
not
I'm
who they
saying
are.
is Mike Norvell is now in a position that he has to evaluate all personnel and especially these quarterbacks. Now, one thing you brought up before, you used the word adapt. Well, I heard a quote. I was watching the what's his name, McAfee? Yeah, I was watching this guy. I know you don't like these guys. That's okay. We don't have to agree on who we like.
Say your point.
Okay, that they had Bill Belichick on. No, maybe that was on ESPN game where they had the Manning brothers and Bill Belichick. Someplace I heard him say this. Bill Belichick said, "You've got to adopt." He was talking about NFL team. He was talking about Florida State. You've got to adopt your offense to the strengths of the quarterback you have. You can't try to force the system that you were running with Jordan Travis or DJU onto Brock or Luke. You've got to sit down with Brock and Luke and say, are you comfortable with a long side out throw and get an honest answer? Are you comfortable in running the RPO? You've got to find out what the hell did these guys do to recruit them? What are their strengths now at this level, not at the high school level? Okay? And so adapting to the players you have, quarterbacks and otherwise, is critical to moving forward with this program. So, and here's the last point, and then you can go on, is this, for some reason, for the last couple of weeks, Alex Atkins, except for a couple of exceptions of people who have finally jumped on the train, okay, that I've been leading this parade, and you know that, and I have the receipts for it, is Alex Atkins is still getting a pass this whole past couple of weeks, that when we talk about how miserable this offense is, which is now ranked 132nd out of 133 offenses, which I've been watching Florida State since the 60s, is incredible to hear that. They've scored 11 touchdowns, 9 field goals. I'm not even counting the extra points and other bullshit. Averaging 15 points a game. 15 points a game. And they're, you know who's ahead of us in total offense? UMass, Akron, Kent State. Right, those are in the lower ranks, right before us, and Air Force. Only one team behind us, Houston, okay, which is another calamity. It's incredible. It's incredible. So, Alex Atkins, and now I'm hearing people, well, he's just, the OC is just a tag hung on his neck. Really? Is that what we're doing now? Is that what it does matter.
No, it does.
It's not being truthful.
It's his players.
It's not being truthful. Okay? He's the OC, much less the O-line coach. I want to hear somebody ask Norvell, what does OC designation mean for Alex Atkins, and what accountability does it bring with it? My point is Alex Atkins needs to be held accountable. He's holding the two positions, the two designations, the two name tags, OC and OL, and this team is 132 out of 133. If there's no accountability for Alex Atkins, how do you hold anybody else accountable, which needs to be done? And I'm for, and have said it widely, Alex Atkins needs to be, one, fired, or encouraged to find another job before next season. Period. That's it. This is not a personal. I'm sure he's a very nice guy, like everybody we talk about. They're all nice guys. This is a business. He's being paid over $1 million, and I don't know what his buyout is, but you have to hold somebody accountable. Who just fired their OC last week? a college
Many
team.
teams have fired
Okay.
assistants.
Okay.
Florida
So
State's the only team that's not doing
it does Mike Norvell have the ability to evaluate and say this in any normal business, in football now at all levels is a business, you wouldn't keep this guy there. If this guy was a financial portfolio manager and it's constantly in the red, they're going to remove the guy.
Well, you could say that about
So,
many coaches.
so what I'm saying is I don't understand why everything's kind of silent around Alex Atkins. Okay. So we can move the program on now.
All right. So with that-
And last point.
Jesus Christ.
When
What?
when your special teams unit is one of the tops in the country, that's a problem. Okay? Alex Mastromano is going to be an NFL guy. He's a great punter. And unfortunately, Fitz is not getting that many kicks. He can't even qualify for the Lou Groza Award, so he doesn't have enough at-bats. But Alex Mastromano is going to get a bunch of extra kicks probably this coming week against Miami.
Yep, and we'll go right into that because Florida State has no
Yeah.
chance of winning this game, and I'm just going to say that right now.
16 and a half
I'm not going
points.
to clickbait you like some people. This is what I hate about some of the Florida State fan base is that you're going to get clickbait stuff like this. Is Miami on the upset alert?
Yeah,
you
view
know,
catching. View
things
catching.
like this, like
View baiting.
FSU's making moves. Things like this, like
Yeah,
this
what
the
is
stuff-
that?
This is the
Yeah.
stuff that bugs me.
Yeah.
Is because it's clickbait. It's trying to sell you something. It's things like this. Florida State. There's no way Florida State can win this game, and I normally wouldn't say it because I'm usually kind of optimistic that Florida State can pull it out of their bag. But Florida State is one of the historically worst teams in college football ever at their current rate. This is a team that legitimately cannot get in the end zone. They cannot put points on the scoreboard. Like you explained, they're 132nd in the country in scoring points. You think that they are going to outscore if both teams didn't have defenses on the field or had the worst defenses on the field, Miami is capable of putting up 40 plus points. Florida State can barely crack 20, much less 15 points.
Yeah,
We
guess
have
who?
not shown any semblance of a functioning offense all year. And that's not to say Miami. I don't think Miami is a top 5 team. I don't think Miami is going to win the national championships there because they've struggled against a pretty shitty schedule in terms of defensively the last couple of weeks, especially. But they have a damn good quarterback, and he's making the most of their weapons. And they have a pretty good offensive line based on the guys that they have recruited. And that's, if you want to look at the blueprint in terms of how do you build a program back, look at the last 3 recruiting classes that they've done and how they built their offensive line. And Jalen Rivers and Anaz Cooper and Ryan Rodriguez, all those guys were through high school ranks. They recruited them, and now they're on their line, and they're starting. None of the guys are going to – where are the Florida State starters? That's where you can compare apples to apples, Alex Atkins and Florida State to Miami and how they build up their trenches and now where they progressed to where now Florida State is and how the trenches dictate how good you're going to be on the field. You can find receivers anywhere, especially in the transfer portal area. You can go find, a Restrepo or guys like him across the country. Restrepo was a 3-star out of high school. He's a great receiver, but you can find guys that have 1,000 yards at Texas State that you can plug into an offense if you have a great quarterback and a great offensive line. That guy was a 3-star. Now he's going to probably be the number 1 receiver at Miami all time. He's number 4 in receiving all time at Miami.
Our guy,
4th all time.
Yeah, Ja'Kai Douglas is our guy like him, but when Ja'Kai Douglas, who is a great kid, a great player, he's not going to play in the NFL, unlikely, unless a team finds and can use him. You know what I mean?
I don't care.
When he's our best receiver, we're in trouble.
Yeah. And so, like I was saying, if you built through the trenches the right way, you'll attract good quarterbacks to play for you, or you'll prop them up, you'll prop your high school guys behind them, and the skill position players will come. Or you can plug them in. And Florida State, look at Miami's recruiting classes, and you'll see how they built up while we were beating them down, which we were, as we should have been. They've been building their trenches the right way, and that is why where they are. Now, that's not to say they won't regress and they won't lose this season, but they're playing a very soft schedule, and they got a Heisman candidate and quarterback.
Who leads the country. He's number one in the country.
And now, if without him, I think Miami has 2 or 3 losses on their schedule right now. That's how
Oh,
impactful
no doubt.
he is right now.
No doubt.
That is how impactful
No
a
doubt.
quarterback and a decent to good offensive line can be to a college football team. Because without him, they've lost probably 2 of their last 3 games.
He didn't fit the Florida State culture.
Yeah.
Okay, Miami leads the country in total offense, 577 yards per. Okay.
And that's why Florida State cannot win this game. Because you are not going to be able to outscore Miami. This game could have been week 1 or week 12. You can't outscore Miami at the rate you're going.
Can we make it a game?
No, you cannot.
No,
You
can we make this a game?
points.
You don't
will
think we
lose by
can
30
make it a
points.
game?
No. You couldn't make it a game against Duke.
Yeah, we did. We almost won that game. We had like 4 turnovers and lost by 7. We did.
And Duke is a anemic offense that your defense did as much as it could, and they held them to 23 points. Malik Murphy is about the
he's not good.
junior high school version of
He's
Cam
not
Ward.
good. Yeah, he's not
Malik
very
Murphy
good.
is decent, but he is not anywhere close to Cam Ward. And so they put up 23 on us. What do you think Miami's going to be able to do against us? At home.
Here's the deal. Yeah, Miami with
SMU put up 42 on us.
Okay, what if Cam Ward gets hit, knocked down, and injured in the first 2 plays of the game?
Even with a scenario like that, which I hate saying because I don't want any player on either team to get hurt.
No, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, that happens.
If that were to happen, I still have no faith Florida State can win this game because we can't score any points, and our defense doesn't get enough takeaways to score either. That's the other thing we don't talk about. This defense doesn't create takeaways. They don't score on defense. Our touchdown last week was on special team. Was a kick return. Our defense does not create interceptions. They don't create fumbles. They
Not
don't run
so
balls
fast.
back.
Not so fast.
What is the turnover margin? Tell me the turnover margin.
I got it right here.
What is it? What is it?
Not so fast.
What do we rank?
Our turnover margin is we rank out of 133 teams, 126.
Exactly.
Minus 10.
Exactly.
Minus 10. When you look at a number like that, just that number, it will tell you that your football team, if you're at 500 for the season, you'd be lucky. You'd be lucky. And our defense, total defense, will rank number 75 out of 133. Now, Miami's defense is not blowing down trees either. So they've been giving up some points. So if we're going to score any points in this game, this could be the game we do a few points. Now, we are giving up 370 yards per game. Miami's getting 577. That'll be interesting to watch. And our defense is giving up 25 points per game. Miami is scoring, I believe, like 43 points a game.
They're scoring, they're
43?
48
48.
per game, second in the
Okay.
country.
So to see how this game rolls out against those stats right there, which I'll be following, it's going to be very interesting. For Florida State to have any chance in this game,
They don't have a chance.
Cam Ward would have to come down with the flu or something, and I hope he doesn't, obviously. We don't want anybody to get hurt. It's a game. But he'd have to miss the game. And I don't know who their backup is, but he'd have to miss the game and it would still be tight. Now, the question is, can Florida State, can they control the football, which we've shown no history to be able to control and make long drives? I hope Mike Norvell doesn't do the hurry up offense, because if he does and he goes three and done, it's going to be terrible. It's like in a basketball game. You remember when a basketball team would play a really talented team? You knew you didn't have a shot, but there was no shot clock. You just try to control the clock. For Florida State, they have to try to control the clock and make the most of their possessions. But we've shown no way to do this to this point.
Well, you can't do it if you can't run the ball effectively. In Florida State, for the most part of the season, they've only cracked 75 yards in the
You're
game,
right.
I think 2 or 3 times. And last week
You're
against Duke, they were able to. They were able to
120
run-
some yards, I think.
And they still lost the football game.
And still lost.
And they still lost the football game because
Right.
they couldn't score touchdowns.
Right.
They were able, they were able to put, you're able to run the ball. You're able to have some sort of balance on offense. But once again, you gave the ball away. You didn't finish drives. And keep in mind, some of those rushing yards came from your quarterback. About 47 of them came from your quarterback. So, and 31 of them came from Kyle Morlock on that kick, on that fake punt. So it wasn't like, that's 70 of 162 came from your quarterback and a
Yeah,
fake
special teams had a great
Yeah.
game.
And-
And that's the problem.
these gimmicks, even these gimmicks aren't working for you, right? These gimmicks still aren't winning you games when your defense competes in it. How do you think that's going to fare against a team that can score almost at will, probably against you?
Okay,
I mean, we
let's-
saw the defensive backs last week play pretty well. I
thought they played really well. I think they've had a good season overall, given the defensive front and the linebackers.
But once again, I thought that was one of their better games this season in terms of, I thought, like you said, Azaria Thomas.
they
played
were
very
blanketing
well.
the receivers.
Yeah,
they were
Fentrell said-
blanketing.
And the refs let them play. The refs let them
They did.
play physical.
They
and
did.
And that's going to be a big thing. And I've seen some weird calls for Miami games this year. I'm going to be totally honest. There's been some weird calls with the Miami team this year. So it'll be interesting to see how they let the defensive backs play against a very good Miami receiving corps. We know about Restrepo. He'll be going for that number 1, number 2 stat, trying to pass Michael Irvin against Florida State, which, they'll be hyping up. They'll be marketing. They're going to want him to get that record against Florida State.
Who's that other guy you liked from Florida playing for the 49ers now got shot? Remember in that robbery?
Parasol?
Yeah, I think he's either made his debut last week or he's going to make it this week coming up. He's going to get on the field. He was
Why is
another
that?
like Restrepo guy,
Yeah.
He's kind of the Ja'Kai Douglas guy where they find ways to get open. Let's take this question here. Shannon Parsons. Now, I've never seen Shannon's name on our program, but Shannon, you're welcome to our program. I'm going to read Shannon's question. Let's debate this a little bit because it does kind of go with what we're talking about. I know the season is over. It is from a won and loss standpoint, but I'm not an FSU fan, and I want an opinion from you guys. Do you guys think FSU can be good next year? Because I feel like y'all have given up. Now, when he means y'all, I don't know if he's talking about the media as y'all or the team. I think he's talking maybe about the team and the coaching staff. Do you want to take the first shot at that?
Yeah, I'll take it. I think in the era that we live in, we play college football's in, you can easily turn a team around in 1 year. Look at Indiana. Look at Miami. Look at, Miami was no good last year, and now they're on their way to the playoffs. Like I said, look at Indiana. You can see many examples of teams that have been garbage 1 year and turn around the next year. But you have to have an administration and a coaching staff willing and able to make changes and willing to look at the weaknesses in your team and address them head on and not make excuses. And so far in the Mike Norvell tenure, we have not seen his ability to make change and make hard choices in the staff, especially his staff. We've also seen him make the wrong evaluations, especially at the quarterback position. You can go all the way back to Mackenzie Milton in his first year. So when I say, can they turn this team around in 1 year? 100% they can. Will they use the Battle's End collective money in the right areas? I don't know, because this past season we see that they didn't. Daryl Jackson has been a complete bust. Patrick Payton has not shown up. We can go across the board at players who have regressed and that money has been wasted and invested in the wrong areas. So, but no, I have not given up and to say next year is going to be a wash, because there's too many examples of teams that have turned it around in the season. And in this era of NIL, you can overhaul a roster in a year. And that's sort of what Miami did in certain areas. They brought in the right players, and most of them have worked out this past season. They addressed some on their defensive line, a couple of guys in their defensive backfield, but they did a good job on their offensive line recruiting that homegrown offensive line. But I think it's Mike Norvell is going to have to make drastic and hard changes both on his staff, as well as pinpointing, make crucial evaluations of making the right choices in the portal of who he's going to bring in, and they're going to have to spend some cash in this offseason. If not, this offensive line is going to be terrible next year, and they are going to lose a lot of games. But I have not given up on next season already. By no means I have not.
Well, first of all, Shannon, thanks for joining our program again, and we hope you come back. I can't disagree with what you're saying. I think it's going to be more complicated, and in our future shows, I want to talk more about this rebuild because we're in the opening stages of the rebuild across this whole program. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be fascinating. I'm a process guy, so this is all process. This is all a process about how you're going to handle this to be successful. Now, do you think you guys will be good next year? The question is, what is good? Would 500 be good next year?
Playoffs is good. Playoff contention.
I think that's going to be a stretch.
ACC championship is good.
Okay,
that is
now,
good.
Do I think all of a sudden we're going to flip from this season to a playoff contender next year with this roster?
Say ACC championship.
I don't think so. I think I would go on record right now to say this team will not win the ACC championship next year and not be in the playoffs next year. Okay. A rebuild doesn't happen that quick. But giving up, let me address the word giving up. And, and I don't think he means it in a mean way or anything. Giving up, Florida State never gives up, okay? This program has such a rich football and sports history that they aren't going to give up. The Seminole Nation is unconquered and never gave up, never signed peace treaties with the U.S. government. Florida State is not going to give up. It's going to be a matter of how much time it takes to turn it around. I was in one of those rebuilds. As a student at Florida State, 1973, we were 0-11. 0-11 under Coach Larry Jones. So they almost lost the program. They almost got rid of football because financially nobody was showing up and so on and so on. Except me. I was there at every game. However, this program will rise from the ashes. It's how long will it take? And I want to address this question to you then, KB, along that line. I believe there's certain notes I have here of things I think that Florida State must acknowledge before the rebuild can actually start. And I'd like to quickly just list these off to you, and then you can comment. Florida State must make the following acknowledgments for them to start the rebuild. This doesn't guarantee success, but it starts the rebuild process mentally. Mentally. You must acknowledge, Florida State program must acknowledge that we've hit complete rock bottom. We cannot have the word salad anymore from Coach Norvell in his press conferences. We can't have that. We must completely acknowledge we are rock bottom. We must commit totally to a rebuild, a total commitment to a rebuild, and that means making tough decisions, some of them we've already talked about, and coaching staff, front office people in the football operations must go, and everybody must be evaluated from top to bottom. We know Coach Norvell is not going anywhere because he has a $93 million buyout. So that's not going to happen. But if he doesn't show performance in the rebuild next year in his organization and what he's trying to do, he could be next. Okay? So Jordan Travis is gone. Okay? Jordan Travis, did great things and helped this program under Norvell to rise from the ashes, go through a very tough period of time, but Jordan Travis is gone. So let's stop comparing everybody to Jordan Travis. We must get over blaming everybody outside this program for our woes. ABC, ESPN, Disney, the playoff committee, Kirk and his friends in his golden retriever, Saban and and Alabama getting a farewell. We've got to stop being focused on that type of stuff. We've got to stop blaming Jimmy Sexton, the player agent for Norvell and many other major coaches, from being the dirty guy. He's doing his job. He's doing his job. That's what he gets paid to do, to protect his clients and get the most money. He's not a goodwill agency. So the fan base here needs to get over that shit. All right? Why don't you ask Coach Norvell then? Coach, we think you should get rid of Alex Atkins. It's $1 million, $2 million buyout, whatever the hell it is. Why doesn't he take it out of his yearly salary? He's making $10 million. If Norvell's so committed to this program, he should start spreading some of his money around too, instead of asking every fan who's trying to make every paycheck work from month to month to keep contributing to NIL, and we don't even know where the hell it goes. Norvell is not leaving. I already mentioned that. A.D. Alford must weigh in if Norvell will not make the tough decisions. And recruiting is going to be an issue. I suggest we're probably going to lose at least 30%, 30 to 40% of the verbal commitments we already have. And NIL is going to be a huge issue moving forward. And the last point, stop blaming referees. The coaches have a mechanism through the ACC, through their conferences, to complain about the refs. I am tired to say, I'm tired of everything being blamed on referees. So these are the acknowledgments Florida State must make mentally to move forward to be a dynasty type program again. Your comment.
Yeah, I don't have a written speech like that, but
well, pick out something I said that you disagree with or you agree with.
I mean, I think it's. I think you just have to build things the right way, and I think Mike Norvell, if he's the right coach for this program, has to acknowledge his failures and he has to address them. And address them quickly. I think if you look
well,
back,
you can't.
Recruiting has not. He should have made quicker decisions and said we're not recruiting the way we should be, especially coming off a 10-win season and then an undefeated season, 2 straight seasons. We're not recruiting at a high enough level. We're not recruiting at the level of Texas. We weren't even recruiting at the level of, say, Miami next to us, and that would lead to failure. We're relying too heavily on hits from the transfer portal and not building enough homegrown talent. And that has come back to bite us. Not enough hits this transfer cycle, and we're stuck where we are. And he's got to look internally and analyze and audit and look at his staff and look at his program and say what went wrong and how do I address it and address it quickly. Because there's going to be many coaches available in this offseason. Many, Brent Venables at Oklahoma may be available because he may get fired at Oklahoma. And there's going to be some high-quality coaches who may be, look at the Nick Saban. I'm not saying Mike Norvell is Nick Saban, but Nick Saban would take quality coaches, make them into assistants, and keep that train rolling because he was losing the coaches all the time. But what
like Dan Lanning at Oregon.
Yeah,
he worked for Mike Norvell.
I know, but that's all I'm saying. He needs to go out and take some of the quote-unquote, he needs to get rid of some of these mid-major coaches he has on the staff who have never coached at this level before, who have never coached at a Power 4 level before, and get some guys who have at least been a head coach or have recruited at an SEC or ACC or Big Ten level and bring them into the program, because at least they may have not succeeded as a head coach, but at least they know how to operate at one. And at least they know how to recruit at one. And at least they know how to pitch at one. Because the coaches, some of the coaches on this staff, I don't think were prepared to work at this level. And I don't think they were prepared to recruit at this level. And then with NIL in the mix, I don't think they were ready for the whole operation. And I don't think Mike Norvell held them accountable enough. And I think
So it's a Mike Norvell problem.
And he's held on to too much. Him
Why?
trying to be the offensive coordinator, I think, has hurt this program.
No. Alex Atkins is the
Okay,
offensive
shut up.
coordinator.
I know. I know.
No.
But he needs
I
to
mean,
bring-
that's what it is.
We stop. Okay, we know.
Mike calls the plays, but Alex
And that is the issue.
The OC.
That is the issue. That is the issue. We need a true offensive coordinator who's done it at this level before, who's had success at this level, calling plays, creating an offense. And it's not Mike Norvell. It's not this Frankenstein monster of a coach between Alex Atkins and Mike Norvell trying to cobble together an offense. No, it's someone who knows how to adjust on the fly, build it around their personnel, and execute it. That's what they need. That's what he needs to bring in. He needs to put his fucking ego aside and bring somebody in to execute. That's what he needs. So he can focus on the little things and see what's actually going on in his program. Are people not recruiting the right way? Then get their ass out. If they are doing it, great. Give them the reward and give them the bump they need, the money they need to continue to do it further. Evaluate the players who you're looking at in the portal. Look at everything, because right now he's trying to do too much and he's failing at many things. Do a few things well and do them right. Don't try to do many things okay.
Okay. And I know you'll agree with me. We're going to have we're going to have more shows about organization, the process, what needs to be done. We're not going to all do it here in one night. I find it fascinating. I really do. And I'll give you an example. And I'll just throw this out at you. I strongly believe, the way college football is going, there will be, and there's a lot of chatter about it, and I think from sources that are good. It's not the Redneck Review media. It's really from people that seem to have a constant look at this. I believe we are headed to, as I've said for a long time, the NFL minor league type of program. So if you're going to be an NFL-like program, minor leagues, then you should operate as one. So we might have a good opportunity here. You know, it's hard. I get it. It's tragic. But to rebuild in the shape of what we believe the future looks like 10 years from now. Okay? That what is college football, if we sat down and said, what is college football going to look like 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? We should structure this program now to meet that need. It's like when you build a highway and you just add one lane, and you should have really added 4 lanes, because 10 years from now, the traffic will be so much more. I'm suggesting, and I'm saying right now, that this program should be rebuilt in an NFL-type front office organization from the top down. For instance, where you have your head football coach, Mike Norvell, but you have a general manager. And some programs may already have something similar to this, but you have a general manager. Now you could say, and it's not going to be Alford. Alford handles all the athletics. You're going to have a general manager for the football program. He is the overall guy, okay? Alford could be looked at as like the owner, like Jerry Jones. Okay, but the structure should be similar, because that's where we are. Okay? That's where we are. For instance, Rick Stockstill, who I like, who I watched play at Florida State, he had a decent college coaching career. He is now the director of scouting for the offense. Director of scouting for the offense. Now, I don't know if that means he's looking at defenses or he's recruiting. I don't think he's a recruiter.
But Florida State already has the role you're describing, though.
Well, what I'm saying, here's one right here. Derek Ray. He's the general manager of personnel. So, should he be taken under the microscope and say, you didn't get the job done, Derek, and you need to go? Yes. But this is what I'm suggesting, is we need to have this structure, and the point you're making, and I'm making too, is we're not attaching accountability to these to these
And that's
positions.
on Mike Norvell, because the GM of personnel, the director of player development, who's
He
Jeff
works for
Cooper,
Novell, right?
and athletic director of high school relations, yes, all these players, and director of
Okay.
player personnel, Chuck Cantor, all those players, all those coaches are under him.
Okay,
He's
I'm saying
responsible for holding these people accountable, and that's why I'm saying is that Mike Norvell's too much in the little details of developing the playbook and making sure the players are right. He's not holding these guys accountable, or he's not putting middlemen to look over these people and report up to him.
Okay.
He needs to hold Bruce and Derek and Jeff and Gerald and Chuck accountable for all these things.
Okay, what I'm saying, KB, I agree with all of that, is the general manager should be above the coach. Okay? And in the NFL, that's what it is. Okay? The general manager is above the coach. All right? Now, some head coaches have a problem with that, and they want to be both the head coach and the general manager because they don't want that war. There's war goes on there. But the coach cannot be above the general manager in the organization that I'm proposing. Cannot be. That way, the head coach can focus on football. Just football only, okay? He can sit with the general manager, and hopefully they have a great working relationship to talk about personnel, just like the draft. The owner, the general manager, and the coach are all kind of involved in that, but the coach is not over the owner. He's not over the general manager. The general manager is held accountable for how well these people do when they come in.
So are you prepared to pay a general manager $10 million a year?
I'm not going to get into money tonight.
Well, no, that plays into it. That
but
plays
what
into it. 'Cause you wanna
I'm saying,
put someone over the head
KB,
coach. Where are you going to get this cash from?
KB, to be one of these Mega 2 conferences, which I believe there will be a Mega 2 conference, a Mega 3, potentially 3 conferences, and set up along the NFL model, is you're going to have to pay whatever the market rates are. If Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, Texas, you name them, if they're paying their general managers to be above the coach and they're paying them $10 million, then you're going to have to pay or you're not going to play in that league. You're not going to play and be successful in those leagues. Because if we want to stay in a weak league, we might as well just stay in the ACC. Okay? Because you think we're going to be able to build as fast in the Big Ten or the SEC? You're not going to. But I'm all for leaving the ACC, and it's the most important thing on the radar for this program is we must get out of the ACC, and we must spend whatever money it takes to get out and get into one of those other conferences. But to answer your question, if the going rate for general managers in the Mega 2 or 3 conferences that are going to be here in 5 to 10 years, then we're going to have to pay that rate.
Okay, great. All right.
Okay.
I keep turning this conversation. Yeah.
Well, we're going to have this conversation again down the road because we have to have this conversation for a complete rebuild. If we don't,
your whole argument is we need a general manager. That's going to fix Florida State.
No, I didn't say that's my whole answer. I didn't say that's my whole answer. I said we need to set up a model like NFL teams have, because that's what we are. We're basically a personnel system.
Come up with a lot of money then.
I don't have to come up with it. I'm not coming up with any money. That's up to
then?
the university to figure out.
Well,
if they don't want to play at that level, then they can play down.
The battle's
that's how it is.
The fans for money. So
well, you know what? And also there needs to be more transparency in where the money is going. I'm not going to just give money. I've never given money to organizations that I didn't kind of have a clue where the hell it was going. And I'm not going to do it today. All right? I don't know where the hell the money's going. I don't know where it is.
Well, yeah.
But no, I'm a
little write out your model so we understand what you're talking about.
Well, you can see it. It's all out there. You can look at any NFL team and see what it looks like. Director of scouting and all that. We kind of have this, but you know what? Instead of having here's Jeff Cooper, Director of Player Development and Operations. I don't know what the hell the guy does, but he has an assistant director. And then we have Chuck Cantor, a Director of Player Personnel. And then we have Corey Fuller, Director of Football Relations. What the hell do all these people do? You don't need all of this type of shit going on. And they all report to Norvell? That's a joke. your football coach should be focused on football strategy and winning games and not all this other shit. Okay? They can play into it, but you kind of have to wonder if this is just a club where guys are getting paid and what the hell are they doing? Who's holding them accountable? And Norvell and Alford are the only guys that can hold the rest of the staff accountable. Now, how you evaluate Gerald? Wait a minute. This is the future of a lot.
No, it's
what
not.
we're going to be
We don't
talking
know
about.
what the future is.
Oh
We
yeah,
don't know this is the future.
Okay,
is.
what we're saying
So
is, how do you evaluate? How do you evaluate
wins and losses? The amount of players that become
listen.
NFL draft picks. That's how you evaluate.
No,
it's not that
that's
fucking
not true.
hard. Yes,
That's-
it is.
that's
yes,
not
it is.
true.
The players you bring in, what do they become, and how many games do you win?
Okay.
It's not that fucking difficult.
Okay, but
I can put it on a fucking spreadsheet and show you.
Wow.
It's
Listen,
not that hard.
this is not a
This
family
isn't
run
brain
show.
surgery.
Okay.
This isn't literal brain
I'm
surgery.
saying is
I can grade them right now. Give me 2 hours. I can grade them.
does Maddie McCormick, director of recruiting operations, does she get evaluated at the end of the season? Does Mike Norvell give a performance report to each one of these people? Do you guys have performance reports
Probably
at your
not, because
business?
half these people are still on the staff. If they had been, if they get one at the end of the year and they're still on staff, then no, they don't. If all these people are still back at the end of the year based on the current performances, then no, they shouldn't.
I mean,
Then they don't get one.
there's people on this thing that it's amazing how many people are on this roster. But you can't have your football coach so focused on figuring out what all these people do. You need a general manager, and all of these people fall under that general manager. See how that relieves the head coach to just do his job? And he can have inputs to the general manager, but he's not going to be coordinating with all of these off the field front office people who do impact his football team. Maddie McCormick is director of recruiting operations. I don't know if she just has the golf carts that she rolls people around in, or is she out there going to the high schools, talking to these coaches? I don't know what her job is, okay? It doesn't say what her job is. My point is, and your point is, and we agree on this, the football coach should be focused on player development on the field and so on. He can have input. I would like you to bring in Cam Ward, you know what I mean? Or I'd like you to bring in, it's amazing how JMU, right? They lost their head football coach who went to Indiana, is having a great season, and he took several players with him.
He took like the entire roster with him.
Okay, whatever. Okay, but did you see who's leading? I think in one of the offensive categories, they lead the country. JMU. They're back leading again. I pulled it up. It's not that big of a deal, but they're leading a category in something.
You should have the stats.
Okay, well, okay. It's a point. I didn't. Okay, no, it's not. My point is, if I think you will agree with this, the head football coach should be addressing the players he's provided with and has input into who he brings into the program, but he doesn't have the absolute final say in it.
Well,
And then he is about organizing practices and player development in that
You know
regard.
what the other fucking issue is that these staffs are now so fucking bloated that you can't.
What are you talking about? Bloated.
Look how big this staff is. Look at how
I know.
many people
I know.
are
That's
on
my
a-
point.
No,
That's, this is
that's what
my
I'm saying,
point.
is that you don't have a person. You don't need, in my opinion, you don't need like.
All right,
could
we're not
cut-
here to eliminate people's jobs.
I mean, you should,
No,
Elon
it's
Musk
not
this
even
and just
funny.
Cut half the staff.
I'm
I
just
mean,
asking, what do they do and how are they held accountable? That's in any organization, in any business, right? In your business area, they must say, how many guys do we need in sales? How many guys do we need doing this? I mean, it's not an endless stream of money here.
I would ask everyone on offense, senior analyst Austin Tucker, what do you do all day, and what are you analyzing?
You could say at the end of the season, I want everybody. This is Mike Norvell. They all respond to him, I guess. I want everybody to tell me what were your 5 significant accomplishments for this season, and turn it in by next Wednesday.
No, I would be mean with it. I would have.
What would you do? You're the coach. Now you're in charge of these people today. They wouldn't be under my new organization. But what would you ask them for? How would you evaluate them?
I just don't know how all these people have a JD. Like, what is their job description of all these people? I feel like some of these people have to be sitting at a desk doing nothing for at least 2 hours a day. I just don't know. Like, what is the director of recruiting operations, Matty McCormick, doing? Because our recruiting sucked. Like, we've come off of 25 wins over the course of 2 years, and we still can't get a top 10 class. Matty, what is happening? Why isn't Mike said what is happening?
And she may say, Coach, you need to go down the hallway, talk to the other guy down here, because really, I just organize when the recruits come in.
Or
I do that.
So I'll have Adam and Matty both in the same room. And I'll say, "What the fuck is going on, guys? Wait a minute.
But you're getting ready for Miami. How do you? You're saying
at the beginning of the season. At the end of the season. And I'd say beginning, middle, and the end of the season. I say, guys, okay. Last year we come in, we had 25 wins. We didn't close our recruiting class great. What went wrong? Was it because Ron had the wrong pitch? What was the feedback that the assistant coaches were giving you? Why didn't we close on these players? Why didn't we close on X, Y, and Z? What are you hearing? What are they telling you so I can go follow up with them directly? Why are we not getting top 5 classes anymore? We just had 25 wins over 2 seasons. Went to the Orange Bowl, got snubbed in the playoffs. Why the hell are we not getting top 5 classes and closing on the top players that we want? You get all those guys in the room. If you can't get an answer, they're gone. Or you roll up to the coach and say, okay, if they tell you, go talk to Ron. Ron's the reason we didn't close. And if Ron can't give you an answer, he's got to be gone. It's not that hard, but you have to have that.
You have to have a couple of sacks. And I'm not talking about quarterback sacks. But to sit down. But this is what I'm preaching, KB. I'm glad you got into this a little bit, because we're going to talk about this more. How would we do this organization if you and I were the GM or to do this? What is this going to look like in 10 years?
And then I'd have Mac and Isaiah. And I would say, do you think our players are developing at the rate we want them to? Look at our offensive line, Isaiah and Mac. Let's look at our Armella. Let's put a screenshot of him on our PowerPoint. Is he developing at the rate that you think he should be? Who does that fall on? Did we make the right call in recruiting, or wrong call in recruiting, or is that on Alex Atkins? Should I go speak to him? I want to see what Mac and Isaiah say to me. Is he developing the way that we thought he would when we recruited him? And I would put multiple other players on it. Like, we need these guys need to be held accountable, because in a staff of this size, complacency is going to happen, because they know that they cannot be held accountable consistently because there's so many people on this staff. All these people are not going to get FaceTime with Mike Norvell weekly, monthly, even quarter. Like, maybe every 3 months they will, I would assume. Mike Norvell's not sitting down with these people once a week. He may pass them in the hall, but this size of a staff, and this may be even smaller compared to like a Georgia. This is probably small compared to like a Georgia, but this breeds people sitting on their ass or not giving their all. And so you have to find a way to be on top of people and holding them accountable when you sniff even the slightest.
Well, here's an example.
Complacency.
Here's an example.
It breeds complacency.
Dimitri Emmanuel is an assistant or is an analyst for the offense.
Oh yeah, and that's nothing against Dimitri, but why is he just graduated?
I know. You know what that is? What do they call that in a patronage system? You know,
like you brought in Ernie Sims because you liked him, and he actually has.
Well, Ernie Sims has a resume in the NFL.
All-American, number 9 pick. And Florida State, a star.
And played for the Detroit Lions and had a really good career.
And he can only be an analyst, along with Dimitri Emmanuel, who was a transfer 1 year, got hurt, and Yeah, this is what doesn't make sense. You're just filling bodies.
And I don't know that maybe they're only getting paid $500 a month. I don't know. It doesn't matter. What matters is, like you said, KB, and now we're getting into this a little bit, and there'll be other shows. We're not going to keep going tonight. But this, we've got to figure out what are the key positions, what do those key positions do, who they respond to. And I say they can't respond to the head coach. I want you to think that over now for future shows. And how much are we paying all these people? This is the key to rebuilding this program for 5-10 years down the road.
I don't care how much you're getting paid. If you have a role, you should do it to the best of your ability. Because, and it may be Ernie may say, I see Demetri Emanuel having the same role as me. And there may be some ire there, but if I pay you to be, and once again, they may get paid differently based on their years of experience. That may be it.
Well, of course, yeah. Well, on your resume, you always get paid difference on your resume, but it shouldn't be about longevity.
Not all, but I agree. We need to understand what they're responsible for, because with a staff this large, it breeds complacency, because it's just too big for everyone to be held accountable at a regular clip, and we have to understand who's responsible for what and who needs to go.
It's incredible.
And I would expect there to be a lot of turnover, hopefully, in this staff, because when you look at just recruiting has not been where it should be. And you see a lot of people, director of high school relations, recruiting operations, like these people, all the ire goes on the top coaches, like it should, because they're getting paid millions of dollars. I understand that, but their support staff, it all goes together. It all goes together.
Could you ever see Mike Norvell being so committed to this program and being so upset with himself and say, listen, I don't know. I didn't do a really good job. I thought I was doing a good job. I haven't. I really need to really take a look at everything, because I am committing myself to rebuild this program, and I'm going to show you how we're going to start and how we're going to do this. And here's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to take $5 million of my own money from. He's getting paid $10 million a year. I don't care. But could you see? No. I would feel that way. How many millions of dollars do I need? I would say, and I'm going to start with $5 million of my money to help rebuild this program by using it to either NIL or to buy out coaches that I think aren't going to leave or whatever.
It's not going to happen.
There has to be this brutal awakening of this program, is what I'm saying. And I may not be around to see how it all turns out.
This program is like a business.
But you will be, KB, you will be here. And I'm telling you, they have an opportunity now.
College football's a business.
They have.
Don't love something that can't love you back. Don't love something that can never love you back. He should not give money back. He's not going to give money back.
Listen, wouldn't that be a bold move by a coach saying, I am taking accountability and I'm going to take my pocketbook?
It's not going to happen.
Okay, well then you know what? He's not the guy I thought everybody thinks
bullshit.
He is.
That's bullshit.
No, everybody, all the fans. Oh, Mike's got our back. Well, if he's got his back, take out his wallet out of his back pocket.
That's bullshit.
Take his wallet out of the back pocket.
No, that's bullshit.
Okay, so he has no accountability either.
I don't think.
What's his accountability? What's his accountability?
Is holding his coaches accountable. That's his accountability, is making the tough choices to say, sorry, Adam. Sorry, Alex. Sorry, Randy.
Right.
Sorry, Odell. You got to go.
Okay, let me ask you this.
And making the right hires.
If you were the head coach, if you were Mike Norvell and the head coach, would you make those moves during the season like we're in now, or would you do it after the season?
I think you only make the decisions if you know the right guy is available. It makes no difference now or later unless you have the right guy lined up. That's the only time it matters, because the only advantage of keeping them on board now is if you have certain recruits still in the fold and have tight relationships with the coach, you can keep them on longer. If you fire Alex Atkins now and you don't know who his replacement is going to be, and someone else takes over, then you have to then backfill him with someone on your roster.
Okay, would you be having
the next coach?
Would you be having your general manager or whatever the guy's name is today be calling around? Calling.
doing a background search of
yeah.
who's the potential best fits for this role.
How about that? How about the offensive line coach at Georgia? Maybe we could go after him.
Once again, you have to look what's on the budget. You have to understand that's a conversation
What?
Mark Gravel, Alford, and probably another guy like maybe the GM have had to say, Mike, this is what your budget's going to look like if you've got rid of X, Y, and Z. This is what will open up. This is what our buyouts will have to be.
You know what?
And this is what you'll be able to target.
You know
on
what?
the
They
market.
have that in the NFL. They have their budget guys
Well,
because
that's what I'm saying.
they have
That's
to
what I'm
meet
saying.
pay caps. Because someday college football could have pay caps.
And if Mike's not
They could have pay
but if
caps.
Mike's not already having this conversation, that's another indictment against him. If he's not already looking at the contingency plans of saying, this is who may be available. This is my top 8 choice of coaches who could get fired and be available. These are the coaches who are currently available, and I want to go out. Like
But-
having those plans and then talking about budget with Alford and them and saying, this is who I want to attack right away as soon as they're available.
Here's the
done.
issue
He's
with that. Here's the issue with some of this because we've said he has so much on his plate. Until we move
He's
to the
26.
role,
There's nothing-
until
there's
we move to the role of a general manager that he's above in the authority line over the head coach, it's not going to work well. I'm telling you right now.
He's 1 and
The
6.
general manager guy could be doing all of this
No.
type of stuff now,
And that's what I said.
and then the head coach can be doing what he's supposed to do, which is coach against Miami and North
that's
Carolina and
that's
Notre
how
Dame.
it should work right
he
now.
Shouldn't, he should.
Mike's not going to be meeting with the GM every day about this, but he says, hey, Ray, this is what I want you to start looking at.
Well, okay, that's all right. I understand. He could put out a email, say I want you to do this. He could be at home pounding these out, but I don't think
Not even emailing,
I think
just
it's not
saying,
a
"This
good
is what I
structure. The current structure today is not a good structure for 5 or 10 years down the road. That's what my prediction. Okay, that the head football coach should lose some of that authority, and that authority should be vested in the general manager and some of it potentially to the athletic director,
that
where
will
they
never
all.
happen until they re-upsert the pay structure. I'm just saying. That
Well,
will
that's
never happen.
okay. Then change the pay structure. The pay structure, number one, is a disaster. Who the hell would make a buyout for Novell to be $93 million? That is, it's incredible. They just got done paying Willie off. Willie Taggart just got a final check somehow for $17 million. That cleared his account. Incredible.
One
How
thing I want
much?
to say before we get off of this is that I don't blame these people for the woes of Florida State. These people are.
I'm
probably
not blaming
underpaid.
them for the woes.
No, I didn't want to say like I didn't want to seem like I was saying I think that these people should be going first. I think these probably people having my experience in sports operations and having looked at South, these people are probably grossly underpaid for the hours that they put in for a lot of what they do for the program. They roll up.
Well,
to-
they're building resumes in the
they
business.
roll-
This is an industry.
Let me. No, people who work in sports operations are the most overworked people in any industry. Let me get that clear.
But they're building
They-
resumes.
They roll up
Okay.
to they. Many of these people will not go and be an assistant coach or a head coach.
But what?
They will
Why
be
are they
stuck in the
working
hands-
there then, KB? They're building a
Because
resume.
they love the industry. And that's how these people get them in to say, hey, you want to go work for your favorite sports team and make some
Well,
money?
that's their choice.
But
That's the
let me
choice they
finish.
make.
I just want to say that they're not likely the reason why Florida State's struggling. It all ultimately rolls up to the directors, the managers who are the coaches, these folks. This is why these are the folks that should be under the biggest microscopes, not the analyst, the operations assistant, not the condition, director of reports. These folks. These folks are the grunts who are doing the day-to-day stuff for these people who are old. Now, they should be looked at, their direction should be talking to them, making sure their work is good. But at the end of the day, the directors, the deputies, and the managers who are the coaches, they're the ones who we should ultimately be looking at, and they should be held to the fire at the end of the day. And because they're the ones getting paid millions and millions of dollars to perform, and they're not doing it for Florida State. That's what I want to say, because everyone else is doing the hard work for them to roll it up to them. And if those people's work isn't good enough, then those coaches need to tell them that and give them that feedback. If they're not, they need to go.
Well, I think it's a matter of, yeah, I think the evaluation, player evaluation is pretty, I don't want to say easy, but
No,
by
it's not
statistics. In sports, statistics are accumulated on everything, and they do tend to paint a picture. But when you get into the coaches and the front office staff, it's a little bit harder on what's doing, who's doing what. However, I'm going to take pro sports. I know you don't follow pro sports. I don't follow it as much as I used to, but I do know this. Major League Baseball, basketball, NFL, they have general managers. Those general managers are hired and brought in to win championships, period. And if they don't do that through their ability to bring in, you don't think they have a lot of assistants on personnel and scouting and all this. And if they don't bring in the right guys, including the right head coach, they're out of their job. So the accountability has to be fixed for everything you do for every position. Okay, like you said, what is the job description for the assistant director of scouting? What does he do? Does he break down tapes at the high school level and say, okay, here's a guy, 6'5", 310-pound guard. Okay, and this guy, look at this guy, he's a big guy. Okay, those are the guys Alex Atkins bring in. But who did this kid play against? He's carrying 3 stars. Who is he playing? He plays for Clearwater Academy. Who the hell do they play? Okay, do they play against any other 4-star guys or 5-star guys or state teams? Well, no, they're a 2A team. Oh, they're 2A versus a 5A team. You got to start asking questions on where are these guys, how are they being evaluated? Because you're big doesn't mean shit,
No,
okay?
I agree.
Doesn't mean anything.
I agree with that, and that comes into play with recruiting, like you said. It's why is this guy the right fit for our team and for our scheme? And I think Florida State needs to hold who is making those calls for Florida State, because I think you saw many misses in the portal. Let's look at Marvin Jones Jr., for example. The guy's been a total miss. And what coaches were saying, and what the insiders were telling us, is that they thought he could be Jermaine Jones' clone. That has been far from the truth.
Jermaine Johnson.
Jermaine Johnson, a clone of him.
Well, that's just all hype shit. That's
but
media.
Once again, if a coach actually said that,
Who said that?
That's what the insiders are saying. That the coaches said that he would be a clone of him. And if they actually said that, then that's scary that that's what they saw in that kid. So that's either a legacy bias or whatever.
I think it was a legacy bias.
That guy is not even close to being what
I think it was a legacy bias.
And so a lot of the takes you've seen this year have not panned out. So in the transfer report, it's very important that you make the right evaluation.
Right. Well, he'll be back next year. He'll have another year of development.
He ain't going anywhere.
He ain't going anywhere. And Pat Payton ain't going anywhere.
And then you look at some of these guys that they recruited, like Camden Fryer and B.J. Gibson and stuff like that. 3-star guys.
Frier's been injured.
But once again, they're 3-star guys who probably weren't going to make an impact for a couple of years.
Correct.
But then you guys got Wayne McCoy, who hasn't seen the way. Elijah, is it the? I just question some of these evaluations, but more so on the portal side, because in the portal you have to be dead on. These guys are going to be the right fit for our scheme. And they're going to be able to play right away and make an impact and potentially make an impact for many years, or at least compete for a spot to push the incumbent starter that's there.
Well, that's a very good point. And you and I have talked offline about this of why would they bring in at center, what's his name? Jacob Rizzi. He's 6'5", 308-pound senior who played at Harvard. He was like all-conference type guy at Harvard for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Has he played any snaps?
I don't think he's
Is Maurice Smith such a outstanding center, which we know he's not, and his stock is so far up that he's going to be a high draft choice in the NFL, and we don't want to ruin that because it's not going to happen. Why doesn't Rizzi get a start? Why can't he get a start against North Carolina and get a start against Charleston Southern to give him a look? I mean, he's a portal guy. What the hell? What
He's
is
had
he
3
thinking?
snaps. He's had 3, according to Tomahawk Nation's nice table that they do here. He's had 4 total snaps. That's the time.
Well, then we would say he's a bust because he's not playing, right? That Maurice Smith is not that good. That Jacob Rizzi should have an opportunity.
Well, we look at
he
Maurice
should
Smith's
have an
numbers.
opportunity.
Maurice Smith's numbers, average grade for the season, according to PFF, is a 70.73, which is
That's a joke.
it's the minimum score for a starter.
Yeah.
Minimum
Yeah.
score for a starter. So
Yeah. Well, he's not going to the NFL.
no,
So
none of these offensive.
none of these guys are. But you understand my point about Rizzi, right? Why
Well,
would
once again,
we
it's
go
either
into
a
the
miss. It's either a miss. Yeah, it's a miss.
Well, you
because-
know what it is? You know what it is? You know what it was? It was an insurance policy against Smith going down again because we had no other centers from high school being developed.
Yep. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. It's absolutely that's insurance policy, but it's also you didn't bring in the guy that can compete to make your line better, and that's the
Right.
issue, is that you
Right.
are trying to stay average,
Right.
and that's the issue. You didn't want to get better. You couldn't find a guy to make this line better.
Okay, as we wrap up tonight, we could stay. I could stay on here. I've been biting to get. I could stay on here for 2 hours. What I'm saying is this: you think the current structure of an organization, and it needs to be evaluated somewhat, but the current structure of the head coach having total authority over all of these other off the field people in scouting, in analysis, and all this, you feel that's the right guy versus my model, which says, no, you should have a powerful general manager who the head coach coordinates with, but does not have the final say.
didn't say
Which
that's
one
not
do
the-
you take?
I said
5 to 10 years if we're rebuilding this thing from the ashes.
you can't rebuild it until the pay structures change. You're not going to pay a head coach $10 million to just respond to a GM. So
Keith,
until
KB, we're not gonna. You're gonna have to pay the going rate. Okay, you're gonna have to pay the
you're
going
going to
rate.
pay a GM $10 million and a head coach $10 million, and then their assistants millions of dollars too.
If
Where's
that's
this money coming from?
If the going, it's whatever the market demand is.
But that's what I'm saying. The model will not change until one school is willing to pay a GM more than their head coach. That's when
Okay.
it changes.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling you.
Do you
It will
think
not
that will
change.
happen? Do you think that will happen?
No.
5, 10 years down the road.
Maybe in 5 or 10 years, it'll take one school to change their model.
Why not do it now?
because
Why not change
There's not
now?
enough money floating out there.
Why not change
Coaches
now?
are overpaid. right
Start
now.
eliminating some of these
because
other
head
positions.
coaches, because schools are already overpaying their coaches to keep them and do those things. They say, Alabama coach DeBoer, you're underperforming and we're paying you Nick Saban money. What the hell are you doing? Do you
Well,
think
their
we're gonna
fans,
go out-
their
do you think
fans
we're-
are kind of asking that.
Exactly. Do you think, and we're going to go shell out $15 million to put a GM over you?
The coaches' salaries. The coaches' salaries are inflated. They're inflated, and they blame guys like Jimmy Sexton, sports agent. Don't blame Jimmy Sexton. If you got befuddled by a sports agent, that's on you. If you thought Alabama was going to hire Mike Norvell, then if Jimmy Sexton used that card, and they're going to use this shit again, not on Mike Norvell. They don't. Nobody cares.
But you also have to remember, in the NFL, there's not a thing called an athletic director, and that's what they have in college. So there may be a time when the athletic
You know who that
director
is in the
eliminated.
NFL or pros? That's called the general manager.
Exactly, and that's why that you're talking about a model that somehow it really can't exist because there's no thing. So
Well, you know what?
director-
The AD could take on that role.
Well, that's
that
what
could
I'm
be a
saying.
role for him. Not only does he does the other athletics, which, I mean, there's not a lot to coaching golf and volleyball and baseball. Let the head coaches take on more responsibility there. But you'll be the GM. You'll be the GM for football as well.
Exactly.
And the head coach reports to you, coordinates with you, asks for your guidance. But the front office staff belongs to me.
Yeah,
as
that's
the
the
AD.
only way I can see it.
Slash
translating, but
GM.
Once again, a coach isn't going to respect someone that's not paid more than him. So they would have to pay an Alford clone or an Alford.
I don't know about that. So you're saying you're saying
respect
Norvell doesn't respect Alford because Alford doesn't make $10 million.
Not totally. No, of course he doesn't. Mike Norvell would leave Alford in a second.
Mike Norvell works for Alford.
I know. I know that, but he has no loyalty to Alford.
Of course not. He has
Exactly.
He has loyalty to his money because if it was loyalty,
he respects him. He respects him, but it's not like he said. That power differential between $10 million and a guy that makes $500,000, there is a power gap there that says, I'm the one making all the calls. Alfred, you may be the AD, but I'm the one everyone looks to. I'm the one with the football team. No one gives a shit what you do, honestly. I can pull the strings here. If I win 12 games, I'm a god in this city. You're not. Everyone looks at me, not you, Alford. Let's be honest.
I don't know. I think Alford.
No one knows Alford's name outside of Tallahassee. Let's be honest here.
No, he's known around the league.
Right.
Once he gets
the other sports nerds know his name.
Once he gets Florida State out of the ACC, that's going to be his legacy. If he fails there, it's not going to be a good legacy. If he gets Florida State out of that and into one of the mega conferences, Alford's going to leave.
ADs aren't
but he's going to do that. He's going to do that. But no, okay. But again, wouldn't it be nice? You talked about the word loyalty. Wouldn't it be nice to hear Mike Norvell at the end of the season to say, I'm as disappointed as everybody else. We've made a lot of mistakes over the course of this past season and prior to the season in a lot of different areas. And I'm committing myself. I'm committing myself. And you guys are paying me a hell of a lot of money. I'm committing myself to straighten this out. And I'm going to start with taking $5 million of my own money, and we're going to find out the best place to use that $5 million as we start this rebuild. You know what? People find that type of shit refreshing. Okay? They find that instead of word salad. Oh, it's a Miami. This is another week for us to have a great opportunity. Play that presser. Another week of great opportunity and development. You know, he's not saying we could probably get our ass kicked here. Okay? I'm looking strictly.
I'm not going to talk about some fairy tale fantasy of him giving money back like Peter Pan.
My point is,
he's not going to give the money.
My
back.
point is, he's over the course of his contract.
What CEO has ever said, "I'm going to give my money back and we're going to make the quarter great"?
You know what? Be different. How about be different? How about be different? How about be different? Show your team. You're going to hold yourself accountable where it comes out of most through your wallet.
What CEO has
through
ever
your
done that?
wallet?
What CEO has ever done that?
That whole CEO bullshit is stupid too. It should be.
Why?
You know what? It should be performance based.
You said we're going
should be
more as an
performance based
NFL
contracts.
You said we're going more towards an NFL business model, but you want him to give his money back that he earned.
I'm just saying. No, we said loyalty. We said loyalty.
Loyalty's bullshit. Okay. It doesn't exist.
Okay.
It doesn't exist.
No, I understand that. I'm not naive.
You don't, because you want him to give his money
I'm not
back.
naive. I'm saying be different. Be different. Be different. Be different. Okay. Be different. If Mike, you're saying you're going to invest now the next couple of years to rebuild this program, invest too by money because that's all you're talking about. We got to have the money. Got to have the money.
I would only give that money back if they lock in NIL contracts. Because if I know my player's going to leave year after year, I'm not giving back $5 million. So the players can get paid.
No, I'm sure their NIL contracts are only for a year at a time. For one season at a time.
Any money back.
That's it.
Fuck that. I'm not giving money back. Why?
Well, so be a man. Be a man.
What does that have? I earned that money. Why would I give money back?
Be a man. Did I do? If I did such a crappy job,
does Mike catch balls for Kentron Porter?
If I did such a crappy, it's more than that.
Does Mike catch balls?
He brought Kentron in.
Does Mike block?
He brought Kentron in.
Does he block for the players?
He brought those guys in.
So he's giving them time to make money. So Mike allows them to make money through the battle's end. So
he's head of the operation.
So he gives them money through the battle's end, and then he has to give them more money because he wants to be loyal to them.
You know, no, that's the penalty.
He has to pay both ways.
That's the penalty he should pay because he's responsible. He's responsible.
That's the dumbest.
He's
that's the dumbest
responsible.
Thing I've ever heard in my life.
He's
That's the
responsible.
dumbest bullshit I've ever heard in my life.
Okay. I'm not saying it's smart business from an
It's the most
individual. I'm
idiotic
saying
That just teaches you that if you fail,
I'm saying he
gonna
wants to
reward you
show
for
the
failing.
fan.
I'm going to reward you.
He
for
wants
failing.
to show the fan base something. He
I'm gonna
could give it
reward
to
you for
charity
failing.
in the university for all
reward
I
you for
care. He
failing.
doesn't have to pump it into the program.
You just said
but
that. You said
Oh,
that.
God.
Where's the money going to come from? You said, where's the money going to come from? It's going to come from
Listen,
Mike.
KB, you've been preaching all night. Where's the money going to come from?
And you
Where are we
just
gonna
and
get
you
the
said it's
money?
going to come from Mike. You said it's going to come from
You know
Mike.
what? Mike should kick it off with that.
And
Why
so
couldn't
losers
he?
get rewarded. And
Why
so
could-
losers get rewarded.
It's his losers. He brought them in.
And so he's going to give those players who sucked on the field more money.
He brought them in. He brought them in. He's responsible. So he could show the fan base, this is what I'm going to do to try to get this thing going right. It's
Yeah.
going to start in my back pocket,
Yeah,
and I'm not going to ask you guys to give $100 or what these guys. God, these guys on some of the FSU media channels, some of these fans, they're giving $100 for a super chat.
Oh, I agree.
You know, why
fans
don't those
should be-
people take that money and send it to the NIL instead of putting in the cookie jar for some of these social media guys
I don't think
that
they
are
should
on
send
here
it either.
24/7?
They shouldn't be sending it to either site. It should,
Ridiculous.
That money should be coming from big corporate boosters.
Ridiculous.
Because honestly, I don't think any of those. Oh, Battle Zen's getting $50. I don't think that money makes a drip in where. I think it's.
Oh, it pays
still coming
for
from big
Ingram
boosters.
Smith's salary.
I don't know.
Well, somebody's
Don't
paid
think
for his
so.
salary. How much is Ingram Smith making?
But
I don't even see him on his show anymore.
I don't know. But at the end of the day, I don't think the fan money is.
You don't know. You don't.
Is
Is Ingram Smith working for free?
I don't know. I don't care. But at the end of the day, I don't think fans should be giving if they're working month to month, paycheck to paycheck. They should not be giving their money.
You're
to this
exactly
thing.
right.
They should not
Put
be
that
giving
into
money to
their
this thing.
put that into their kids'
'Cause
schooling.
at the end
Put
of the
it
day-
into something on the table.
At the end of the day, we love FSU, but FSU is not going to be able to love you back. Just remember, it's just like any business. This is the business. College football is a business now. Don't love something that's incapable of loving you back. These players aren't going to come up and hug you at your house, hug your kids. You need to take care of yourself. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, month to month, take care of yourself and your family first. Support the players. Do whatever you want, but don't waste. God, if you're struggling, that's what hurts me. If people
Well, it
give
does hurt.
$50,
It does hurt. It does hurt.
And people are begging for Discord money and $50
It-
to get the Battle's
right.
End and da-da-da.
Right.
And when there's huge corporate donors that they could be going after to get this money, which they
They
probably
could.
are, and that's how they're paying for NIL. People are giving $25. And then these players go out there and they suck. Like, that's the thing. Like, and then they're like, don't blame Battle's End. They can't control that. You know, whatever.
But don't you see that a lot of like NFL contracts are about performance based? There are incentives
that's a
in the
portion of it.
contracts.
That's a portion of it.
No, I understand that. I understand. But what
But at
I'm
least
saying
they're
is,
multi-year. At least they're multi-year.
I understand we're still in the Wild West and you know, everything's developing. But I'm saying the Florida State program has an opportunity to rebuild for a program, not next year, rebuild for 5-10 year model.
Yeah.
What is the ideal model? Oh, okay. So it's all about.
Florida State
okay.
doesn't need to be trying to think about the rebuilding of the
No,
NIL.
they
need to
don't.
be thinking about how they.
I'm not saying rebuild the NIL model.
said that.
I'm talking basically, and we haven't settled on this. Is the authority? Maybe we did
Yeah.
to make Alford the AD, whoever it is, /GM, and they handle the off the field stuff, and the head coach spends more time with the players.
Yeah.
Period. Not all this other
not
15, 25 people.
It's not going to happen right now.
Okay. Well, I'm not asking if it's going to happen. I'm asking
don't
you
have the money.
what
You
is
don't
the
have the money.
what is the right way to do it.
Okay. Well.
You keep
doing-
going. Oh, it's not going to happen. It's
Well,
not gonna
Georgia
happen."
seems to be figuring out the way that they do it, and Texas seems to be figuring out the way that.
Well, why don't we
head
copy?
coach and
What
AD?
was they doing?
Yeah,
Maybe they're
it's
doing
called
it.
recruiting the right people and winning football games.
Okay. Well, you
don't
know
have
what?
to redo the AD model to
KB,
fucking do it. You just
KB.
recruit the right players, develop them, and you win football games.
Well, KB,
It's not
you know
that
what?
difficult. It's not building the nuclear bomb. recruit guys, you coach them up, you get NIL money, you get transfers in, the right guys, and you win football games. It's not that hard. You don't need a new AD model and pay them $10 million to do it.
Okay, so Mike Norvell needs to figure out over the next few weeks, is he going to have to go in the portal and get a top quarterback? Okay.
Yeah.
And you can go right to the stats.
And he's
now.
going to have to get about 10 linemen, too.
You can go.
We know that.
Well, yeah. And what quarterback, if I was a top 10 quarterback in this country,
he's not getting a top 10 quarterback. So let's not
you know what I'm saying? I'm saying to myself, even if I'm a high school quarterback, a good one, wouldn't my father say to me, son, they had the worst offense in the country. They had the crappiest offensive line, and all those guys are leaving, thank God, but they don't have any replacements. Son, why would you want to go there and get beat up?
The only way would be money. And that's where you have to have that war chest. The only way would be is Mike Norvell saying, we're bringing in 10 offensive linemen. They'll be the best in the country, I guarantee you, and here's your check. That's the only way you can win that recruiting battle. That's the only way. How did they get Cam Ward? How did Miami get Cam Ward from not going to the NFL? They said we have one of the best offensive lines in the country. Come sit behind it.
Here's a Canes fan right here. As a Canes fan, I can admit, without Cam, we'd probably win 7 games.
Yeah, and that's realistic. And that is totally
it's realistic. And who is that? Troy Ortiz. Troy, great comment, and we appreciate you coming on the program.
Great quarterbacks like Jordan Travis with us last year. Jordan Travis was a game changer. And if you get a good to above average offensive line and put a great quarterback behind that, it can make receivers look like all-star. It can do a huge thing. But you have to build the trenches.
Okay, Mike brought in DJU. It didn't work out. Okay, he's a nice guy. Didn't work out. Yep. Got injured. Mike's not putting him back in. He's done for the season. Maybe Mike should pay off that bill. That's a start on the rebuild. But, I mean, do something instead of running races at the end of practice to try to beat some of the players. I mean, he runs into the field of practice. Oh, we get all of that, Mike. He runs right past players that are walking, okay? Apparently, that's not motivating the players to run into practice, okay? Which I find very interesting because, well, first of all, he may be afraid that someone out there is going to shout a question, which you could be. I could be standing out there. I could stand out there on the outside.
He's not afraid of you. He's not afraid of you. He's afraid
he's not the first
time. No, he's afraid the first time he walks. That's when another story starts of Mike Norvell seeing walking at practice. So that's when you'll jump on top of him, is because he's walking at practice.
I would never do that. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
Someone like you.
No. They're not like me. They're not like me.
Have an article that says Mike Norvell seen walking at practice.
But don't say they're like me. A guy like you. You don't know.
You just said you would ask him questions.
No, I would ask a good question. A good question.
Why are you walking?
Not the ones that are being asked, okay? So don't say, a guy like you. Yeah. Okay? Don't compare me to the guys that have access that get to ask the questions. Well, I don't ask leading questions where the answer is obvious.
We're going to find out next 3 months whether Mike Norvell is capable of coaching at this level. And it's going to be based on the decisions he makes with his staff. How if he can hold on to a top 20 recruiting class and his early portal decisions.
Yeah, but that recruiting class is not going to show any real dividends for 2 seasons.
If he, like I said, if he keeps a top 20 class, there's going to be a couple kids potentially that can play in it.
Well,
and that counts. And what counts in that is people who portal from this current roster. The freshman.
Exactly.
And that's what counts from it.
He has to retain these guys.
And that, you know what counts,
or the ones he wants.
And what matters from that is the coaches he keeps and the coaches he departs and the ones he brings in quickly. Because if he needs to be able to have, that's why I said evaluating the coaches he wants to bring in, because he can say we're cutting 4 or 5 coaches. These are the guys quickly within a week we're bringing in, create those relationships and say, so Azaria, you may want to leave somewhere, but this is your new position. Probably not Azaria because I think Surtain would stay. But these are your new coaches, guys. Cam Davis, whoever's staying around. These are your new position coaches. this is who I want you to get a connection with. This is why we were on in. This is a new offense we're going to run. That is going to be important. Because if you lose 30 guys, not to say that's going to, you're probably going to, you may not win another game for the rest of the season. So I think it will lose to Georgia Southern. But
Georgia Southern, who's that? We don't play Georgia Southern.
Charleston
Southern.
But they're good this year. Charleston Southern's like, I think.
No, they're not. Wins. They're horrible. They've won one game.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking.
That's a rumor Southern. I heard. I didn't look it up.
But anyways, it's basically those coaches you bring in towards the end, hopefully in November, December, towards this tail end, that will influence who you retain, the key guys you retain. Because if you lose everyone from that top 12 class, if you lose the top players like Charles Lester, the top guys from that class, you really are fucked. You really are screwed. So that is why, in my highest hopes, I'm hoping there is a hidden coaching search committee going on in the background right now, who is looking for a backup coach for Dugans, for Randy Shannon, for Atkins, who is saying, if this guy becomes available, we fire X coach and we immediately offer this guy. Like a trigger.
It's going to be interesting.
Like a trigger offer that happens. This guy comes available, we cut and then we offer. So that we can start the continuation of that recruiting cycle with current guys in high school and the guys we want to keep. Even if it doesn't even happen till late December or November. You have to have those contingencies in place.
They got to be. You're exactly right. I agree with you on that. We haven't agreed on a few things tonight, but I agree. They need to have this what is the word, transition.
Yeah.
This transition plan, which most organizations have. Okay, I'm not talking just football, business, military have transition plans.
Yeah.
That's right, because we have a catastrophe.
Yeah,
we have disaster planning. So you're right, because you only have a limited window to get this done, right?
Early sign days in December. I mean,
Exactly. So what was the team that just fired their OC? They fired him. They put in an assistant to call the plays or something. They're already seeking the next guys. That's the advantage of getting rid of people.
I mean,
yeah. That's the advantage. Is you've put up a flag to everybody. We have a job opening. Let us know if you're interested. Back channel. Here's our back channel phone number or email. Yeah. Okay, and we'll keep it all private. Yeah. But if you wait until after the Florida game, because we're not going to a bowl game, all right. If you wait till after that date, you really got to hustle. You got to hustle on coaching changes, and then it affects recruiting.
But at the same time, I don't think there is an advantage to firing a guy unless you know a guy is available that you want. Because if you fire a guy, Alex Atkins, today, unless you know there's a guy available that you want, then you just add more chaos to your team. Then you add more duties onto your plate. Because who is going to be, unless you think there's another assistant on your team that is potentially a better replacement.
What does it matter, though?
Because it adds more duties
what
to every other
add?
coach. It adds more duties to every other coach on your staff, including yourself.
Well, you have an assistant. He has an assistant. The assistant was running it for 3 weeks when he wasn't there.
But what's the advantage?
The advantage is you run up the flag that says we've got an offensive line position coach open. That's what it says. Because it doesn't matter if you lose all your remaining games. It's immaterial.
But then
immaterial.
The recruits who are committed to Atkins automatically decommit. And then if you don't have a coach who's already available that you want, then you just.
So in other words, commitments are only to that coach then.
Potentially. If that's your primary.
So
recruiter,
Atkins is going to leverage that against you, Norvell. If you fire me, all these guys are going with me. Well, that's what you're saying, though. It's a leverage point. You're saying Alex Atkins. Listen, no.
Do you not know how this works? How this works is that they have a primary recruiter who they establish a relationship along with the school. So if he gets fired tomorrow, then they will have that player is going to be like, oh well, my position coach just got fired. I don't know. I've met Norvell one time. Do I still want to go there? Because I don't know who my coach will be. And if Florida State doesn't know who their next coach can be, that leaves a void in that player's recruitment. That's fucking stupid. Do you not understand that? Is that a hard concept?
No. Okay.
Like if I'm applying at a job, and the guy that recruited me there gets fired, and I say, am I still applying for the job, or my recruiter got fired? I don't know who's still doing my recruitment at that job.
I understand what you're saying. There has to be a smooth transition, whether you fire a coach now or you fire him in December. The transition is the kids could still leave, right?
Yeah.
The kids still could leave. A kid could say, well, I signed my intent, and then you just fired the coach. So no, it only applies to the head coach. If you fire your head coach, then all these kids can get up and leave. If you fire the assistant coach, they can't leave once they sign their, quote, letter of intent, which doesn't exist anymore. God only knows what they have. But, they could leave the next year and say, fuck, I'm out. Listen, if a kid commits to Florida State, I hope they're committing more than just because Alex Atkins is there. I want to play at Florida State. You've given me incentive money to do that, and I want the guy who's going to develop me for the NFL.
But you commit to
I'm here to hit. Alex Atkins is not putting anybody in the NFL, so maybe I should go. That's why he's not getting anybody, because he's not putting anybody in the NFL.
Yeah, well, that's probably
okay. So maybe he should be fired. Any kid that wants to leave, any of these kids that want to leave, get the hell out.
That's no reason.
Listen, this is a pile of ashes.
But you have a five-star still committed right now. That's probably why they're not firing him right away.
We'll see if that guy sticks.
Okay. Well,
why would a kid like that stick?
I don't know. I'm not.
The only reason would be money and playing time if he can get it, because they're not gonna. They're gonna be lucky. They'll be lucky to be 500 next season. To be lucky.
Okay, so you've already quit next season. You said you didn't.
I said no. That would be good.
500's quitting on this next season. Yeah.
No, it isn't. That's your opinion. 500 is not quitting.
500's quitting on next season.
You think they're going to go from 2-10 to 500? 500 having a
Indiana
a 500.
Went from 3-9 to 7-0
That's Indiana.
This season.
That's one thing. That's one thing.
And then who's that?
That's one team.
Colorado went from 4
and Miami went to 7-0. Miami went to 7-0.
They went from 7-6 to 7-0 this season. Okay. So there's many examples.
Well, those are outliers. Those are outliers. I'm more realistic.
Not an NIL.
If you're going to build the program correctly, okay, you're going to build it for long term. So that's what we've been talking about tonight. But it does. We agree on this though. One of the biggest decisions, he's got all kind of decisions to be made. He's going to have to find a quarterback. Okay? Because if you look at the roster.
I don't think quarterback's the biggest issue here. It's really not. It's really not the biggest issue.
Well, I will say this. You're right about that, because I've always said the offensive line is probably the biggest issue. The trenches. The trenches. You build from the inside out. No, you build from the inside out. But he's going to have to find a quarterback, because without a good quarterback,
we have to.
Okay. All right. We'll go again on that sometime.
All right. All right. I'm wrapping this up. This is enough for me. All right. So we both think. Did you give your final prediction on Florida State? What's the score going to be?
I think the spread right now is like 16, and some people had it at 20. So, given everything that I see, given everything that I've seen from Florida State and what I see in the statistics on Miami and everything else, I think Miami's going to win the game. Yeah. Miami's going to win the game, and they're going to win by they'll probably cover the spread.
Yeah, 21 points. I think it's going to be at least 30. I think there's no shot Florida State scores 21. Yeah, I think this could get ugly. The only thing that keeps Florida State even close is if they can get some takeaways. If this offensive line can play somewhat competently. I just hope we don't embarrass ourselves. If we can keep this within 21, I think that's a win for Florida State, honestly. Just don't embarrass yourself. Play your best.
And that's going to fall on the defense. It's going to fall on the defense.
But it also falls on the offense not to turn the ball over 4 times.
Cam Ward.
Cam Ward's going to do what Cam Ward does. He's going to score. Defense has to play, like you said, somewhat competently. Don't just give up explosive plays. try to make them have
Get some turnovers.
yeah. Try to make them earn every point that they score and have the offense try to control some time of possession. But I think it's going to be 28 to 35 points, Miami. So that's it. But yeah, that's it. So we predict Miami. Hopefully, Florida State can show some heart, show some hustle, and Mike Norvell can show some ingenuity on the offense to keep them, get them on the scoreboard and show something of these. I hope to see more young guys. I hope to see Landon Thomas and Amari Williams on the field.
Yeah.
Maybe Elijah Moore if they're not redshirting him, which I think has no logic to it. But yeah, that's it. So thank you guys for joining us. I know it was a long one. And we went off tangent, but once again, I don't think there's much to analyze about this Miami game. I think we know what to expect.
Right. It's more about where does this program go in the future, the Florida State program.
Yeah. And once again, it's about what do these young guys on the roster show. Maybe we'll see Charles Lester. Maybe we'll see, some of these young defensive back. What do these young linebackers show us again? Do they continue? Justin Cryer, Blake Nicholson. What do those guys continue to show us as they grow into the role? What key plays do they make? They're not going to make every play, but they continue to make big plays. What does Cam Davis do? So that's what we want to see. We want to see the young guys. Do they have development traits that we can build around? And what do the quarterbacks do under pressure? Because these quarterbacks are going to be under pressure Saturday night. But do they step up? Do they make some big plays? And do the young players around them, playmakers, actually catch the ball? Probably not, but we hope they do. So that's going to be it, guys. Thanks for joining us. It was a long one. Have a great evening. Have a great night. Have a safe Friday. Have a safe weekend. And
go Noles.
Hope the best for the Noles. And if something happens, big upset, well, we'll be celebrating it. Have a great one, guys. Take care.